Jimmie Ward, John, looks like he's headed to IR. John Lynch was on Amazon today. Did John Lynch get like $7 million for that appearance?
He's like, hey, guys, they were going to give me all your salaries and like a part of Herbie's, and I would have been up there.
I just remember, fellas, all I got to do is say the word. But he said Jimmie Ward IR, which is four games.
Do you like how they changed around the IR, took a couple games off, so allows you to do a little wiggle room?
Absolutely. There was no reason to keep good players out for just.
You've always thought, why do they have these hard, fine line rules?
I wouldn't do it at all. I wouldn't have any rules about how long guys have to be out.
Just have a floating number, right?
Bring them back when they're healthy. Well, what do I care?
I think it has a lot to do with like salary cap and contract kickers and stuff like that. Like, I think the owners save a little cash. Not good. To me, what this tells is, one, when Kyle talked about the injury a couple weeks ago, or whenever it first happened, like whenever he talked the next time, he looked pretty like it was an ominous vibe to him. It was not like, hey, it's the way he's talked about Ward and Mosley and a lot of these guys like Kinlaw, like, no, these guys are fine. Everything's gonna be Elijah Mitchell. It was like, yeah, that's not good. And to me, it might have been like, hey, maybe he could be ready by the third or fourth game, but we'll talk. I mean, they're kind of in a numbers like, who are they really keeping? And if you're going to keep Jimmie Ward, and let's say you're not going to have him for a month, this does just allow you to use a roster spot, maybe on an extra offensive lineman, extra defensive lineman, extra DB, maybe keeps you an extra running back. Who knows? But I think they realized they needed the roster spot, and given that he was no guarantee to be back by Denver, because I think you're like, okay, guy could be back by Denver, because if he could, then I would think about it. But I wonder if they realize he's not going to be back by Denver. 80% chance he's not. Let's take the safe route. But guy, that's
the Rams game. You hate to lose in week 4, the Rams game.
This is a borderline 2-month injury, right? He was hurt a week and a half ago. So right around, a couple days, maybe, I don't have the exact date, after September 11th, let's just say August 15th. Now he's not going to be back for 4 weeks of the regular season. That's a long time.
4 weeks of the regular season, which puts him back at like October 9th would be the game he'd return. That's week 5.
That's a long time. Just
you said around mid-August. Yeah, that's
give or take. What do you think? 6.5, 7 weeks.
But I also think it's like with a deep hamstring, that is not. You're not rushing a guy back from that,
and he's covering space. Like Jimmie Ward ain't functioning without his play speed.
Yeah, which honestly, I think they'd be in a worse position had they not upgraded at corner. Like if you told me Charvarius Ward is also out, he's supposed to come back next week. Emmanuel Mosley's back. Like, I think they can weather it in part because of their pass rush and because their corners should be better. But you just wonder, like, now Hufanga is back. I don't know. Jimmie just does a lot. The Broncos and the Rams both have a ton of just are dangerous in terms of their receiving corps.
I agree. Didn't the Broncos
and they're smart? And you're talking about veteran quarterbacks. Sorry, you're talking about veteran quarterbacks too, and that's where I think Jimmie Ward probably also is valuable.
Didn't the Broncos draft the pass catching tight end from UCLA, the guy that can run?
Dulcich, but I think he got hurt.
So, I mean, those guys they just have a ton of weapons. Now, the one thing the 49ers do have is athletic linebackers, and those guys, remember the play of Fred Warner where he didn't just get an extra yard of depth and that ball went over his head to Devontae Adams and led to, like, you're going to need, whether it's Greenlaw or Alshire, and obviously Fred's going to be on the field the whole time. Like, I would say those guys are going to have to step up a little bit in the passing game, right, when it comes to covering pass-catching running backs and tight ends over that stretch. Yeah. Now, luckily, I would say the Bears, not great. The Seattle, I mean, we'll see their quarterback situation. Who knows? Jimmy Garoppolo might be starting. But those next two games, I mean, those guys, there are a lot of weapons on the Broncos and definitely the Rams, right? And think about Jimmie Ward last year against the Rams. Fuck it, I felt that guy was everywhere. I felt Jimmie Ward turns into like Ronnie Lott against the Rams. Remember he had the pick six thing? Now, it hit off the guy's foot or whatever. But I was like, oh, this is Monday night. This game's on.
Yeah. That's part of it. He's just a big game guy, and you're going to the Broncos on the road. You're playing the Rams at home. You definitely want him back by week 7 against the Chiefs. Like, you couldn't afford to bring him back early and then have him get hurt and then miss, that stretch that you get into when you get into the Chiefs, the Rams, the Chargers, the Cardinals.
I think week 3 at Denver, if they're both 2-0, could look absolutely just jaw-dropping sweet on television.
I agree.
That place could be going bananas.